All right, everybody. So we're gonna make some propellers today. We're gonna make some propellers. So I've talked about this and probably done it at least once before on an earlier build video. We're gonna go ahead and do it again. So to get these little parts off of these backer sheets or whatever you want to call this. You know, you can take your blade and try to cut them out that way, but I found with these smaller parts, this just works better. You see we're coming right through. Now, it's a little uneven when you're sanding this way. You just have to keep turning the part. So you'll notice when I'm doing this, and then I'll turn it. Do it again. I'm going to turn it. Do it again. And that's just to keep it all even on the bottom. You know, down here. And again, you want to be careful you're not tearing the part. You need to pay special attention to one side or the other because you're not getting it even, and you have to do that. You need to go ahead and do that. So anyway, we'll get these off of here. Nice and clean. And once they're all off, obviously, we'll start talking about how they go together, kind of how thick that is. That's pretty thick as far as, you know, being a part of the prop hub for this airplane. Let's take a look how it fits into the cowling. It might be too big. You know, I have my own kind of way of making these with wood dowels and solder, cold solder. So it's just we'll go ahead and finish these and see. It's all essentially with the same part. There's not two thick ones and two thin ones to give you a good you know, proper overall size. But we'll take a look at this. This is how they would have it at Guillow. This is how they made it. This is the parts they provided. So we'll look at their parts, give it a fair shot and see if that's, you know, good enough or needs improvement or whatever. So I did end up using the Guillow's plastic wing fairings, and I'll show you that in a minute. If I remember. Sometimes I noticed in reviewing some of the videos I say, oh, no, I'll show you that in a minute, and I never do. You might get it in a later video, you know, which is fine. Just want you to be aware of the fact that, you know, sometimes that, you know, I know that you know that I know that I forget stuff. Anyway, he said something and then he didn't do it. All right, so you can see that these are, you know, this is fun, but it's not as much fun as I like it to be. So that would be probably the right alignment for that, right? And I just think it might be a little. I think these are a little bit large. If we stick that on the engine, you see what I'm saying here? I don't think this is going to work for me. I don't think that's going to work for me. So what am I going to do? Well, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Yeah, that's just way too big. Bummer, dude. All right, well, we got prop blades. And they're probably, you know, they're probably okay. I can probably use these. So we're going to keep those. I'm not going to remove these just yet. But as you can see now, you know, this would be suitable for a much larger scale airplane. If this was 1/25th scale, 1/24th scale, I'd probably, I might use these. But I can't use them here. I was thinking all I really had to do was to cut this down, and I was going to show you, you know, how I do that, which is not a big deal. It just involves something like that's probably too high. We're probably good just here. So it would be something like this. You want to first make a line where you want the cut to be, right? Just like that. And again, all I did was hold the pen, press the part against the tip of the pen against the part, and turn the part, and you get a nice straight line. Then what you would have to do is find something of the right height for your blade. And it looks like this piece of 16th material puts the blade right on that line. And you just do the same thing now. You're just going to hold the part against the blade and redraw that line essentially with the tip of the blade instead of with the pen. But you're right on that line. Okay? And anyway, that's how I do this. You know, you may have a different method. You may want to build a jig and, you know, take some extra time doing this, but if you just do this with a bit of mindfulness and taking your time and, you know, what have you, you can get the right result. You can get what you're looking for. Just remember that you're not trying to do it all at once. You know, you want to you're score cutting and creating a groove, not trying to pierce the plastic all in one shot. So what I'll have to do now is I'll be making the prop hubs. And by that I mean this part. And shaping it, you know, making it, giving it that bullnose shape. And then attaching the blades to it, you know, along the base of it. But it's going to be skinnier than this. This is too large in diameter for the motors that I have and for the scale of the airplane, and, you know, compared to the cowlings and everything else. Just, you know, once you take a good look at the way things are going to be when you put them together, it has to be to scale. And that's where your photographs and reference, you know, materials come in handy. You're going to have lots of drawings and photographs of this thing, and you're going to see how big this ought to be. And when you compare it, you know, to these parts, well, there has to be some alignment. Now, I'm getting kind of not the result I was hoping for here. This isn't usually how this goes. I think what I probably should have done was made sure I had a fresh blade. part comes off, you should have a nice flat cut, and if you don't, you know, you're just gonna make sure that you finesse it on the sandpaper, get what you want, get the look you're going for here. Let's see how this fits in there. It's probably too small. Yeah. So this is more like the diameter of what we need this part to be, much smaller. But anyway, if you have to make adjustments to the prop hubs that come with these kits, you can shorten them that way, just how I showed you there. And you'd want to do them both right back to back, so you don't end up with two different results. I'm going to put those back in the box just in case I can use them for something here. If not on this one, then maybe on a different kit. So we did the line this way. Just set the pen on the bench and set the part flat on the bench, the deck, desktop, whatever you want to call this thing. And you get that nice straight line, and it's consistent now to this one because we did it the same way. And we used the 16th balsa to get the blade up to the right height, and then this time I'm going to put a fresh blade in there. I was kind of hoping I could use all these parts and just build these props up right now, but it looks like we're going to have to punt. I'm going to have to create these prop hubs of my own and not use these parts. They're just too big. They just aren't the right scale. Sad but true, but we talk about how to get them get these off of the plastic back. We talked about how to adjust these for length. Let me just show you real quick what I'm looking for. So this is more like the length of the hub that we should have had, but the diameters are still too large. But that's why I was cutting this down. If I leave them full length, you know, that's just a giant prop hub, and it's bigger than, you know. This is to scale. This is to scale with this, but these would be better suited to a 1/24 or maybe even a 120. I mean, I don't even think a 128 scale. We got a 132 scale airplane here with 132 scale motors, and these props are just, you know, this is what it would have been with my adjustment, and we're still just way too big. I don't even want to tack that on there. It's just that's just way too large for this motor. And you know, this motor just fits into the cowling, right? So we can't have all this prop hub on there. This is about almost 20%, maybe 30% larger than it should be. And that's just too bad. All right, so we can't have it. I gotta make my own. But that's, you know, that's how we see it. We have to, you know, take the parts out. We got to take a look at everything. We got to look at our photographs for reference and make sure that we're not wrong. You know, geez, is it really that big compared to the motor? Well, you know, look at the photos, and you can see that no, then these are much too large. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish my fun little operation here on camera, just so you see, you know, what I do. I'm going to try and keep it against the blade tip this time and not lift and pull off my hand so often as I did the first one. And you want to keep, you know, good pressure against the blade. Not too much, but you don't want to be so soft that it takes, you know, 150 turns. So we want to cut through this thing while we're young, or in my case, never mind. Got a little high on that one. Blade wants to ride up. You just have to resist that. Here we go. Right. Yeah, we got a little bit wonky on this one, but a little bit of sanding, and if need be, you know, a little filler. And the way I always do the plastic parts to get a nice smooth transition is I put a piece of balsa inside. So whether it's a 16th thickness or 3/32 thickness, or if I have to go even, you know, thinner, then I can go 32nd and put a real, you know, skinny piece. But we just trace around the part. And then you start slicing towards that line. Don't cross the line. Be careful when you're crossing the grain, because you can split the part. So you just want to make sure you're making cuts and not grabbing and splitting the wood. And just go to the line, draw the blade back, make it a cut and not a crack. Alright, so we're just going to make this part round, and then we're going to smaller it, reduce it until it fits inside of that hub. Normally I'd do this a different way. We'd probably do it this way with a sanding block. And we're just going to go around the outside and keep that circumference, you know, make sure we're still making a circle. We're not